I'm delighted to be with you to celebrate this first iteration of the Top Women in Cybersecurity Canada. My name is Bonnie Butlin, and I'm the International Coordinator of the Women in Security and Resilience Alliance, WSECRA. WSECRA was formed in 2015 as a subnetwork of the Security Partners Forum, the SPF. I'm the Executive Director and co-founder alongside Grant Leckie. The SPF was created in 2011 and is a first-of-its-kind international agile network of security professionals bridging all domains and disciplines of security. The SPF is a plug-and-play construct with some 800 participating security-related professional associations, networks, and groups, as well as various institutes. It quickly became clear that women in security around the world were facing many of the same challenges, and that a non-hierarchical network of women in security groups within the larger SPF Agile network would be helpful in security for women to network, share best practices, and share professional resources. WSECRA quickly grew and has now some 60+ women in security and resilience associations and organizations participating from around the world. Like the SPF and WSECRA, these awards are a first and unique as part of a global initiative to recognize women in cybersecurity and security. These awards were inspired by the inaugural Top Women in Cyber Europe. These awards were awarded in 2019. I and WSECRA were approached to assist in facilitating these awards, and they were a great success with the first list of top 50 published in November 2019. Cyber in Africa with Cephas Oka also expressed interest in similar recognition of African women leaders in cybersecurity, which we were also able to assist with. The winners are scheduled to be announced in July 2020. We realized that other regions and countries as well had a similar appetite to highlight and recognize the achievements of women in security, including cybersecurity, but that there was no such vehicle for doing so, let alone across regions or collectively internationally. WSECRA has been pleased to partner with women in security groups and professionals on the ground, with media partners and local and regional panels of esteemed judges for these awards. We are also excited about the fantastic events taking place around the world to celebrate these top women. This event is not only a celebration of the outstanding women in Canada, it's also a celebration alongside other esteemed women in Latin America, Africa, South Asia, Asia Pacific, and Europe. This is a huge groundbreaking accomplishment that I'm so proud to be a part of. It was achieved in a very short period of time, and despite the challenges of the global pandemic, which speaks to the importance and the value of this recognition and the momentum behind this global initiative. These awards are an opportunity to recognize and celebrate successes among us. They support future success, encourage, strengthen resolve, and highlight the excellence, leadership, vision, persistence, and resilience within our communities. They inspire. For women and men coming into the security disciplines, including cybersecurity, these awards may help identify where successful careers, opportunities, and the potential for innovation exist. Together, we're also able to benefit from each other's experiences and expertise, and are better able to overcome similar challenges together, rather than alone or sequentially in isolation. Congratulations to all of the winners and to all of the outstanding nominees. It has been our pleasure at WSECRA and the Security Partners Forum to have worked with you and to continue to support these important efforts and initiatives that build on the strength, quality, and resilience of both our cyber and our human networks. Thank you, and I will turn it over to Deborah Gillis.
Thank you so much, Bonnie. And thank you to ITWC and Women in Security and Resilience Alliance for bringing together such smart, strong, accomplished women. At a time when we're all a little more removed and isolated, knowing that we have a community, hearing the stories of the best our industry has to offer, is inspiring. And I'm really honored to represent Dell and be able to join you here today. For me, this is an interesting event to speak at because, to tell you the truth, I never aspired to be a woman in cybersecurity. I have a master's in international affairs, and I kind of stumbled into this career during my time working in the US Senate. I was really in the right place at the right time. The US presidential administration at the time was rolling out a major cyber policy, and somebody had to get briefed on it. Someone had to cover it. And it was highly classified. And my boss just looked at me and said, "You have a clearance, go figure it out." And I walked into that room nervous, not knowing exactly what I was going to ask and how I was going to come off. And honestly, I never looked back. So I often have conversations with young women in our field that want advice on how to break through the quote unquote glass ceiling. And you can't see it from this camera angle, but I am currently pregnant with my third child. And the women that I mentor often key in on that and sort of saying they've often had the belief they can't do both. They can't, how can you be a vice president and be in the middle of having a big family? I think a lot of them feel as though they can either have their family really early, then pursue their career, or maybe pursue a career, establish themselves, and perhaps pursue a family after that, if they can balance it all. And so I feel as though there's often this, how did you do this? What is the secret? And to be honest, I'm sometimes at a loss for what to tell them, because I didn't really have a glass ceiling moment. I've always worked very hard, but I have had great managers that have pushed me, have given me opportunities, and rewarded me for my success. And it wasn't really until I joined Dell about 2.5 years ago that I thought much about the relationship between my success and me being a woman. So at Dell, the conversation about diversity, why it's important, what our goals are, what might be standing in our way, is front and center. Dell is a company that truly believes the company does better if we have a variety of voices, experiences, and perspectives. Diversity isn't about a number on a report card or checking a box. And for us, when we're going to customers and trying to lead the way in terms of digital transformation, security transformation, be in the forefront, bringing new ideas to the table, how can we do that if we all think the same? So my aha moment came after I had been at Dell for a number of months, and I was on a call with Dell's IT leadership, the leadership of Dell's IT organization, which we call Dell Digital. I was a remote participant. I was dialed in on the phone. I was not, most people were in the room. I was not on video. I couldn't see faces. I could only hear voices. And the meeting's going fine, making progress. And I'm really in listen mode. And after about 10 minutes, I realized that something felt a little off to me. And I wasn't quite sure what it was. And it took me a second to realize that it was because every single voice I was hearing, every great presentation, every decision being made, every source of authority, strategic direction was a female voice. And I had to stop for a second and say, why did that even catch me as odd or unique? I am a strong female voice. I have pursued a career in the tech industry. And I realized that while I had always been very comfortable in my career and in the spaces I had been in, I had become comfortable being often the only female in the room. And so when I wasn't hearing all male voices, it was a new thing for me. And so that was a powerful moment for me to check myself and realize that deep down I might have a bit of an unconscious bias against myself, if you will. For me, someone who has a team of individuals that are more than 60% female, has 5 of my 6 direct reports are female, it still felt a little odd to have all of these strong female voices be female. And so why do I bring this up? It's because it tells me we still have work to do, right? Events like this, where we tell each other stories, where we lift each other up, matter. Events like this, companies leaning forward and truly believing diversity is in their best interest, not just doing it because it looks good. That's the reason you hear a room full of strong female voices leading a global IT conversation, which is an area that in the past had been heavily dominated by men. So even if you look around your own office and things look fairly balanced, or you don't personally feel like you have obstacles in front of you, or you're like me and you look at the team you hired and it's quite a diverse group, that doesn't mean that participating in these types of dialogues aren't still incredibly important. So I'm really pleased to be here today. In a little bit, we're going to be joined by a few of these strong, fascinating female voices. I have the pleasure of being joined on a panel by a diverse group of women whose expertise ranges from the highly technical to more of the legal and policy world. So it's going to be a really fun discussion. For now, I will hand the reins back to you, Bonnie.
Thanks, Deborah. I'm going to be on that panel, and I know it's going to be a great discussion. But first, let's hear from our friends at VMware as they introduce the first 10 of our honorees.
Good afternoon. I'm Tara Fine from VMware, and it's my pleasure to be able to introduce the first 10 of 20 honorees today. I can't pretend to know them all, but after hearing their stories, I certainly do admire them all. More importantly, with their newfound recognition, their stories will become known to the next generation of young women who are considering a career in technology, who will continue to pursue that dream, knowing there are women on whose shoulders they can climb. The first 10 women on the honor roll are a diverse group. They come from across Canada: Laval, Montreal, Toronto, Windsor, Calgary, and Victoria. And they came to find their place in cybersecurity in a variety of different ways. Some took an academic path and ended as teachers and researchers, and others came to a cyber role after a full career in technology. One admits she was seduced by the power of cyber's mathematics, and still others, well, they fell into the role like many of us do. The nominees include cybersecurity specialists in the forces who spent time in Afghanistan and Qatar, a woman who dreamed of being a pilot but traded her dreams of flying for dreams of keeping people safer, a veteran in the finance industry who is disturbed by the spike in COVID-facilitated ransomware, a trainer who has watched in awe with the evolution of cybersecurity education. And there's a senior federal bureaucrat who is committed to the principle of secure, safe, and reliable services for all Canadians. Some of the nominees are at the pinnacle of their career after many years of work, and others are making a huge impact in just 3 or 4 years. But they all share a passion and optimism that is so rare. I am pleased to be able to present the first half of Top Women in Cybersecurity. Please roll the video.
Our honor roll list begins in the Canadian Armed Forces. Defending Canada's interests has become a complex task that spans the physical lands we occupy and the cyber domains we've created. Lauren Banks, Deputy Commanding Officer of the Canadian Forces Network Operations Centre, got in on the ground level early when Canada's military began getting serious about cybersecurity in 2014. Since then, Major Banks has served overseas in Afghanistan as the communications advisor to the Afghan Border Police and established the position of Canadian Cyber Operations Planner in Qatar, for which she received a Canadian Joint Operational Command Commendation. When you think of cybersecurity, she says, you have to think about people.
Definitely the people. I consider cybersecurity to be partially the technical aspect, but more importantly, it's all about the people. So while we often think of cybersecurity as a very technical field, there's a huge social component, in my opinion. And not only is that understanding who our adversaries might be and preventing them from getting into our networks and detecting them when they do, but probably more importantly, our own people and what skill sets and traits we're looking for in our workforce.
The women on this year's honor roll list have taken different paths to get where they are today. Our next honoree, software developer Gabrielle Botbol, discovered a passion for understanding security infrastructure while building apps for a living. Years later, the junior pen tester at Okioke and cybersecurity blogger has built a massive archive of educational content to help others understand the complicated waters. On top of that, she's a podcaster.
I delivered apps, but I was not satisfied about their security. So that's when I started to look up online about cybersecurity. And it turns out that I got really passionate about it. So I decided to challenge myself to become a pen tester. And I wrote about this journey on my blog and collected there all the resources I use for self-education. And yeah, a year and a half later, I got my first position as a pen tester in Montreal at the company called Okioke.
Our next honoree is a cybersecurity professional with a technology career spanning 37 years. She recently retired from Enbridge, where she was the director, cybersecurity consulting, identity and awareness. Colleen Labbe has spent over 20 years in both cybersecurity technical and leadership roles, and her primary focus is identity and access management, cybersecurity consulting, and cybersecurity awareness. It's a lot to navigate.
It's pretty scary right now. I think hackers are taking advantage of the situation we're in with the pandemic and lockdown and everything else that's going on. We're seeing an alarming increase in ransomware and phishing attacks.
This honoree is no stranger to the enterprise and financial world. Adriana Glika-Belovich brings more than 20 years of consulting experience in the areas of information security, privacy, and payment security in Canada, the US, and internationally. Prior to entering the cybersecurity field, Belovich had dreams of being a pilot. She ended up pursuing engineering before landing a job in cybersecurity. Now, Belovich is laser-focused on helping the next generation of cybersecurity pros find a way into the field.
Top of mind for us because the attacks are increasing every day, and work from home and being online all the time have been leading to even more attacks. And unfortunately, we need to fight them as well. And we need to attract more people to the profession, and not just through maybe reskilling people, but also kind of start early and educate people, involve them, create awareness about what this profession is. Because in the future, even that I'm an engineer and I am in technology and I got to information security, the future might not require just engineers. We might require behavior analysts or data scientists or other type of skills that, historically have not been at the base of this profession.
Chief Executive Officer of Terra Nova Security, an awareness training provider, Lise Lapointe. Lapointe sees an evolution of education programs that used to be merely phishing simulation tests. The barrier to entry for cyber attacks is increasingly lower, and this honoree says people need to know how to protect themselves.
We put a lot of effort in the products that we develop to make sure the content is interesting. Security could be a dry topic for users, so we need to make it interactive, interesting for them to learn and want to change their behaviors. So what we want is to build a large population of cyber heroes.
Kathy McDonald approaches cybercrime prevention and cybersecurity with a unique combination of more than 30 years of policing, security, investigative, and media experience. Her customized keynote presentations are highly regarded and have inspired audiences on a global scale to be more proactive and diligent when online.
So there are so many challenges involved in cybersecurity. And that's why sharing intelligence, being able to meet and speak to experts, and having those partnerships, I think is really important to move this whole conversation along. So I really appreciate what's being done here in Canada, and I'm very hopeful for the future.
This honoree teaches cybercrime prevention and cybersecurity through the Faculty of Continuing Education at the University of Calgary. Her new book, Cybercrime Awareness, Prevention and Response, is an incredible Canadian resource on how cybercrime affects individuals, businesses, governments, institutions, and organizations. Dr. Adi Mashatan is the founder and director of the Cybersecurity Research Lab at Ryerson University and recognized as a leading expert in cryptography, blockchain technology, quantum restraint solutions, enterprise security architecture, and IoT security. This impressive resume stemmed from a passion for mathematics, according to honoree number 7.
I wasn't thinking about cybersecurity back then. I was fascinated by the beauty of mathematics, so I chose to do my undergraduate degree in mathematics. I soon realized that something like the Fields Medal was not in the cards for me, so I pivoted to a more applied area in mathematics that I could build something with, and that was cryptography. It was a hot area at the University of Waterloo where I did my grad studies.
That love for cryptography blossomed into a position in the financial sector as a security consultant. Over the years, Mashatan says she's realized the gaps in cybersecurity talent aren't just on the technical side, but on the managerial side as well.
The industry needs cybersecurity experts who truly understand the business context that cybersecurity sits in. A technologist with IT management acumen. As a technologist, I had to learn IT management myself. I have met great people in the industry who have mastered this unicorn of a combo, but none of them were trained in any university because no university was offering a program like this.
Our next nominee entered the world of IT and cybersecurity on the hardware side. Mitra Mirhasani is an associate professor in electrical and computer engineering at the University of Windsor. She fell in love with computers at an early age, and after being inspired by a textbook about networking and artificial intelligence, Mirhasani has been dedicated to helping others better understand how our devices work and how they connect to the internet.
What worries me mostly is the health and security of parts and manufacturing devices that we build and buy. So it's a very, very tough issue to tackle. There are many challenges that are in our way to understand the complexity of the process. But basically, as robotics and manufacturing are kind of getting everywhere. Now we have the Internet of Things. Now we are thinking about mobility more and more, about the autonomous cars and so on. That's where I kind of look at those innocent electronic devices and I think, oh my God, we don't know who made you and what sort of information you're keeping and how storing our data. So the health of the manufacturing parts is something that I'm really and deeply concerned these days.
Circling back to the public sector, honoree number 9 works for the Treasury Board of Canada Secretariat as its acting executive director for cybersecurity. While cloud computing has made the lives of millions of individuals and businesses easier, look no further than the current pandemic. It doesn't mean there are no risks with the technology. Poti Duncan says helping the government take advantage of cloud while ensuring its services remain secure is a tricky balance.
And so in terms of, making sure that our citizens, our public servants are provided with the right tools to make sure that government information is still adequately protected. As well as, we work on initiatives like cloud security, making sure that our cloud security environment is secure, but also, providing these tools and making sure that our departments have the ability to deliver secure and reliable services to Canadians.
And wrapping up part 1 of our honorees roundup is Sherry Rumbold. National Information System Security Officer for the Department of National Defense, Canadian Armed Forces. Rumbold got into cybersecurity in 2004 when she joined the Force's Network Operations Center. It's been like drinking through a fire hose, she says, but she loves every minute of it. Her mentors played a big part in helping Rumbold carve a path for herself.
One gentleman, Nicholas Chicago was my captain when I was actually in the military, and his passion and influence in cybersecurity is what got me started. Next is Jane Franklin. Jane wrote a fantastic book called In Security, which was why it's important to bring women into the field of cybersecurity and why it's so important for us to have that gender diversity. And then also Gary Perkins, which is the CISO for the government of BC, who I used to work for at one point. I think his enthusiasm, his passion, his influence, and just his general energy is so, I think, addictive for all of us in cybersecurity, so I have to mention it.
That's it for part 1 of our roundup. Congratulations to these 10 women, and we'll see you soon for part 2. And now, let's hear from our expert panel about how we can unlock more opportunities for women in cybersecurity.
Weren't those amazing stories? We have a lot to be proud of in our industry, but we need more amazing stories, more women who can inspire the next generation of young girls looking for a career. As we work together, I am happy to have a panel of top women in cybersecurity with me to explore the way the industry is changing and how women's lives and their future are being impacted. So I'm pleased to have with me Bonnie Butlin, an international cybersecurity leader and a driving force behind these awards.
Thank you, Deborah.
We also have Abilisha Bhargav-Spansel, a principal engineer at Intel who is passionate about STEM K-12 cybersecurity education and advancing women in tech.
Thanks, Deborah. Happy to be here.
Vanessa Henry, an associate with Fasken, one of the largest business law firms in Canada. She specializes in data protection and information security law.
Thank you, Deborah. Happy to be here as well.
And last but not least, we have Sherry Rumbold, who was recently named a National Information Systems Security Officer for the Department of National Defense, which I'm sure puts her in the middle of some very interesting global discussions.
Hi, Deborah. Nice to be here. Thank you.
You know, there are any number of meaty topics that we could dive into in terms of their relevance to women in cybersecurity. But as we were talking to getting to know each other, one of the most interesting topics of the moment is something we're all living through, which is COVID. As the circumstances have continued, there are a lot of other negatives and benefits, I think, other externalities, things that change in how we interact with our colleagues, how we manage our daily lives. And so wanted to focus in on how that may or may not be impacting women. I'm curious what you see in terms of what unique impacts this may be sort of moving more towards this home environment might be having on women.
I feel like for me, this is a whole social experiment, and I've been actually taking notes and looking at, and there's pros and cons, right? And obviously we do not want to diminish the fact that it has been very hard for many women, and it continues to be. And it has been very hard for single dads as well. It has been very hard for parents in general, I can tell you. But overall, I saw some advantages that were unforeseen. So our firm is Canada-wide, and we have very talented lawyers in Vancouver. So Vancouver is a 6-hour plane from Montreal almost, which means that we don't tend to work together a lot. And now I'm getting all of these phone calls because all of the sudden we're all the same distance from each other. So there's no reason for me to work more with somebody in Montreal or more with somebody in Vancouver. And because of that, I feel that as employees, we have become a distributed network. So I think people look more accessible, and you cannot rely on these artifact of authority that traditionally has been in the office. So, or you have a bigger you have a bigger room than I do, so you must be more powerful than I am. All of this is gone. So what's left? Your personality, your willingness to work, how dedicated you are. And I think down the line that really advantages women. Women have been very dedicated, trying their best, and all of these barriers that they had in some respect maybe are not as present. I think it's fundamentally interesting. There's a lot of opportunities if you're willing to see them and seize them, but it's not without these challenges for sure.
I think those are some great points. I mean, as someone kind of, I've worked remotely, I was hired into my job to be remote, to manage a team of people remotely. That was the model. And so for me, I find it's the great equalizer because, and I actually had a team member say when I joined the organization, I feel like it's more fair now because you're remote from everybody. This person doesn't have an advantage. They don't have more of your time. Sherry, I spent a number of years in the federal government in the US. And for me, that was an incredibly in-person centric environment. I couldn't do anything remotely productive unless I was at work. And so I would be at work until midnight or whatever it was. I'm curious from your perspective, what the shift to moving from home and the productivity, and also, if it changes your ability to influence.
Well, I think that good communication skills is really essential right now. So I think that people that have really, really good communication skills and good work ethic and everything like that are going to be very, very successful, I think, no matter where you work or whether it's government or private sector. And I think that the world as we knew it is not going to be the same. I think that we're never going to probably go back to that traditional model of working, in my opinion anyway, because I think that we're more effective. What we're finding is that there's a human factor in all of this. And some humans do better in the office environment. Some humans do better probably in a remote work environment. And I think it levels the playing field from all workers and employees to be able to have a say, I think. And I'm actually enjoying it a little bit because everybody has an opportunity to have a voice, whereas before maybe it was just more of the ones that spoke louder.
Those are really interesting points. I think something we've touched on a bit is that we're moving to this video conference culture, right? We're moving to this screen culture. And I think some folks are saying there are some real benefits to that, maybe more accessibility to team members that are in different parts of the world. And there's also, there are some negatives to that, right? I mean, I think in my organization, when this happened, we all said, okay, so Zoom is on 24 hours a day, basically, every meeting, video on. We're all trying to connect. We're trying to make you feel like you're not removed. And then people started going, man, I'm getting headaches, or I feel I have the same amount of meetings, but I feel as though I've got way more. We're also opening up our homes to video. People are seeing us in a different light. So I think there's probably positives and negatives here, but what impacts do you see from this sort of video conference Zoom culture that we're moving towards?
I am a little bit concerned about the longer run, and it can be a great equalizer, but there are a lot of things that happen in the home that may be very difficult for women. For example, if you don't, and men, but if you don't have, for example, a supportive husband, if you're in an abuse situation, that can easily be brought into a video conference environment. If you're, for example, an abusive partner is yelling at you in the background, won't keep the kids out of the way when you're in the middle of a meeting. And this can really impact. I think it's much more pervasive than a lot of people would like to admit. If you live alone, if you're in a supportive relationship, and I think this can be very good. But I think there are a lot of people dealing with abuse situations that this then comes into the workplace and can really be quite damaging to a career through no fault of your own. So that's one issue. I think one of the other concerns I have that comes to mind more frequently is that the table is gone. We've fought very hard to get into the boardroom, but the boardroom table is gone effectively. And I think it does matter. Even with teleconferences, people who were always phoning in rather than attending the meetings in person, I think were at a disadvantage in many cases. And I think we'll see a bit of that as well with the, if you're always coming on virtually instead of attending in person. And one of the reasons, particularly during the pandemic, that makes me think of this is living in Ontario myself. one of the first businesses to open in this province was the golf course. And I don't think it's just for the exercise and putting. I think it really was because those relationships on the golf course are that important still.
So I really like Bonnie's points because one of the things I worked in identity and biometrics, another angle to this is the amount of PII that is being collected every second. This is for your children, like a lot of the biometrics wouldn't change. And what you could do with the for basic authentication, this you can start modeling people so that you can saying, hey, Bonnie is in such an influential position. We need to go and, it may be more targeted if we get this kind of information that is readily available. Also for spear phishing attacks where attackers can better understand the living conditions and make very targeted mails or different types of way to lure the person to being more susceptible to ransomware and other types of very targeted attacks.
If I can add to this, I've had very mixed feelings about the whole situation because I feel I'm losing my right and my control over my image. And I do understand that when we went to the office, obviously people were seeing us all the time, but I feel looked at during my meeting. And I feel that everything I move, it's always an opportunity. And as a woman, I'm always scared my kid's going to open the door. That may just happen anytime soon, actually. And it's something that maybe we feel bad about, and I don't see, let's say, my male coworker feeling bad about. Like, oh, here's my kid, is in the room, and they're so proud about it. And I think maybe we feel bad about it because we think that affects how professional we look.
I think a few of the points that were just raised lend itself to, because there's the what do you do about it, right? And I think there's a responsibility of how a company, an institution, organization thinks about these things and handles them and leans forward. If you don't talk about some of the issues we're talking about and you don't lead by example, it's easier to fall into feeling really uncomfortable that your kid just ran in the room. Or if you feel pressured to be on video all the time and have an uncomfortable situation in your home life, like Bonnie was talking about, you don't want to have to be the one to raise that. You want your leadership to say, hey, if there's a reason that you don't want to turn your camera on, that's okay, right? Or, hey, I've actually, my kids come and jump on me a fair amount. And there are times when I don't push them off because I actually want my team members to see that it's okay. I also look at our younger generation of team members that are coming into my company, and that when you look at new team members coming out of college or interns, our internship program this year is completely remote. And those are some of the generations where we really are getting the best balance in terms of diversity, right? I look at our class of interns and wow, they are smart, but also it is truly a gender, race, et cetera. It's just diverse across the board. So this new environment we find ourselves in, do we think that it is, sort of either benefiting or negatively impacting the younger generations and really the future of our organizations? How do you see impacts there one way or the other?
For me, I worry a little bit, and I guess because I look at these trends over years and compare them to other examples of technological innovations over decades, and maybe I'm betraying my age, but I think there is an age diversity issue as well. For example, Gen Xers who are not used to the selfies and being on blogs and putting themselves out and their images out publicly. There are so many efforts now to increase body perception because it's always perfection on screens. And so when we move on to screens in our workplace, is there a similar push to be perfect and look perfect? As was mentioned a couple times already, we're looking for perfection in the home, perfection in our presentation, perfection in our dress. And we're just conditioned like that because we've had entertainment and screens for decades.
If I may add, I totally agree that there is this limitations that one sees when getting tethered to the computer, like Vanessa was saying, and there is a age difference. But from my side, what has really helped, I love working with kids on different cybersecurity education, and they're doing great. I mean, it's amazing to see how well they adapt. Like going into Zoom rooms, I had no idea you could do that. We have a group of 300 people, and then they break it up into groups of 4, 5, have the smaller conversation, then have the bigger conversation. So that energy and their desire to create, and nothing comes in their way. So I love I'm also adapting with them, like to see what it takes. Like I don't have to always look the same. It's okay, to sort of relax and have a chat, and being able to continue to work but understand this model. So I think with the interns, we're seeing that too, is that they get really nothing stops them from continuing their work extensively.
I think it's going to create kind of that technology gap. I sent this email the other day and I was using my phone, and I put send availability, and I just selected my calendar, and some of my colleagues wrote back, said, can you please stop sending these pretty emails to client because it makes me look bad. And like, it's a very easy feature to use, and they haven't noticed. So my concern is that some people are going to get very good with these tools, and it does give them an advantage at the table. So I think organizations need to make a better job of taking people, that extra mile to be able to make the best use, because otherwise we will have a next generation of worker that will have an advantage using this, and people that will do less and less interactive stuff because they don't know how to do it.
If I can just add, one of the things that I'm concerned about, and that is that when we're introducing a whole bunch of new technology to our employees, users, whatnot, that have not actually used this technology to a large extent. The one thing that I'm thinking about right now, especially with the remote workforce and the fact that we've sort of, everybody is in their homes, like, whether it's not really by volunteer in some cases. So, one of the important things is the technical support and the people behind the scenes that actually are supposed to be there to help those people get onboarded, get to work, and to assist them. So sometimes there's a bit of frustration, and I see this a little bit with, how do I do this? I've never done this before. I don't know how to set this up. Who can help me with this? So just making sure that companies, organizations, government agencies, everybody out there has those wonderful, wonderful client services and technical service teams that are, I think that, there always been sort of a huge demand for that, but then we all became a little bit used to the technology that we have, and now we're sort of shifting again. So then behind the scenes, making sure that those technical groups are there, are available, and that we put a little bit more emphasis on those skills to get people trained. So there's a lot of frustration too when folks don't really want to ask for help because they feel like maybe this is a simple thing, and if some younger generations can do this easy, how come I can't?
That is actually a great segue. We're going to run out of time in a minute, but I do want to give an opportunity to make any last comments about, we've talked about a number of different diversity issues here today, right? We've also talked about just some challenges that everyone has in terms of the reality of our new world. But any last comments on specifically what we should be doing or focusing, what our institutions or our male colleagues or what do we want to see in terms of maybe helping to address some of the challenges that were raised today? So we talked about a potpourri of issues. I'll leave it open for any that folks want to tackle.
There's a greater need to identify even the male allies, the partners who can be our advocates and help in this diversity and inclusion discussions. So it is hard to win if we don't have the support of half the team or those who are able to make that difference.
It's been seen for a long time, diversity is about women having the same salary, having the same bonuses. But maybe I want none of that actually. Maybe I want something else. I want diversity for me is to be able to have my kid in the meeting. And I don't think we've been very personalized in how we make women feel equal in the workplace. And I've heard some very benign comments like, why is there's no pregnant woman parking next to the door? I had to walk for 20 minutes. And people were just saying, because nobody raised it. Nobody asked for it, and we didn't think of it. So I think there's a lot of progress we can make with things that are fairly easy to put in place if we just start asking people.
I think that is a great comment to end on. Thank you all so much. I mean, what an interesting discussion. I feel like I've learned a lot, and there were a number of really thoughtful insights. So thank you all so much. And now we're going to take you to a 20-minute live discussion opportunity. I will see you inside.
Welcome back. For those of you who didn't take in the VMware breakout room, you missed an interesting discussion. We covered all shades of women's lives and the sophisticated level of cyber attacks today is just mind-boggling. Well, you know, tools, teams, and training are all parts of the solution, and we did get a great taste of those options in that breakout room. So if you missed me off the top when the program started, again, I'm Fawn Annan, President and CEO of IT World Canada and co-chair of this initiative with Bonnie Butlin. And right now, we're going to have a little fun. We're going to do a live quiz and test your knowledge of cybersecurity trivia. So this quiz is sponsored by Rapid7, a company that has been building security into the heart of organizations for more than 20 years, powering the practice of SecDevOps with automation and analytics to improve visibility. They see security as an opportunity, not an obstacle. So check out the platform below for one of their downloads and learn more. Just look for their logo. Now, are you ready to get clicking? Participating in our quiz is easy. The question will appear on the right-hand side of the screen, just below the window where I am right now. And if you are in full screen mode, you won't see it. So take off full screen and play along. It's going to be fun. This application requires a cookie to operate, so if you get that notice, please just accept it. So, in recognition of our sponsor, Rapid7, we're going to do 7 questions, and we're going to do them rapidly, so please be quick with your responses. So question 1. According to a 2019 report by International Info System Security Certification Consortium, women working in cybersecurity currently account for what percentage of the overall workforce? A, 24%, B, 52%, C, 9%, D, 88%. So I'm just going to watch here while the answers are coming in. Almost in, almost in. And the answer is A, 24%, a substantial rise from 11% in 2019. Question 2. Which of the following is not listed in a 2018 Forbes article list of tips for women who want to get ahead in cybersecurity? A, don't be intimidated. B, find mentors. C, a little smile goes a long way. D, embrace learning. Again, I go to my screen and almost in. Okay, almost in. We're in. Well, the answer is C. This tip comes from, believe it or not, a January 1956 issue of Good Housekeeping as part of an article in which a hiring manager offers tips to a wife for helping her husband succeed at work. I'm really happy we've come a long way from there. Question number 3. In light of the widening talent gap, organizations have no choice but to pursue drastic measures in order to recruit top talent. Some Canadian cybersecurity companies are even considering A, moving to Silicon Valley. B, equipping their staff rooms with martini bars. C, retooling to manufacture whimsical face masks. Or D, hiring more women. And the answers are coming in now. And they're in. The answer is D, hiring more women. Question 4. In what year was Rapid7, our quiz sponsor, named a leader in the Gartner Magic Quadrant for SIEM? A, 2020, B, 2018, C, 2015, D, all of the above. Waiting for the answers. They're coming in. Almost in. And the answer is A, 2020, this year. Congratulations, Rapid7. Question 5. The Ladies of London Hacking Society is A, an elite information security founded by Kevin Mitnick. B, a UK organization devoted to advancing women in the hard tech side of cybersecurity. C, a posh club featuring English Horse Magazine, or D, a group of genteel ladies who only ride side saddle? Oh, and this one wasn't so difficult. Wherein at B. Kevin Metnick is a celebrity hacker and author, but has nothing to do with the Ladies of London Hacking Society. The founder of the Ladies of London Hacking Society is Eliza May Austin. She wanted to address the fact that most training events for women in cybersecurity focused on soft skills and not on the technical skills. Question 6. Code Like a Girl is A, a simile, B, an online publication and community group for women in technology, C, a huge compliment, D, all of the above. And just waiting. Oh, there's big difference of opinion on this one. Okay, almost in. And it's D, all of the above. And our last question, which animal is the mascot for cybersecurity company Rapid7? A, moose, B, tiger, C, llama, D, bear. Well, if you had listened to me earlier when I told you to look for their logo, you'd have this one for sure. In fact, the logo's right here in front of you. So the answer is D, a bear. So I hope you had a little fun, but now it's time to find out more about our winners. So it's my pleasure to introduce you to Lorraine Bush, Director of Communications and Collaboration with Compugen, who will introduce the video of the final 10 honorees.
Good afternoon. Or men versus women. Rather, it's that having more women in the workplace is good for business, which brings diversity in perspectives, leadership, and experience. It's my pleasure to be able to introduce the second group of the 10 trailblazers being recognized among the top 20 women in cybersecurity in Canada. Being a trailblazer isn't without its challenges. But according to the female cybersecurity professionals we meet today, it's clear women are up to the task. In fact, the stories of these inspiring women have the power to change lives. They are clearly changing the lives of the people they are working with and those they are working to protect. But they can also change the lives of young women who look up to them as role models in technology. Like the earlier group, these leaders come to careers in cybersecurity in a variety of ways. One leader reports she became her company's de facto security lead when she returned from maternity leave and was asked to simply evaluate a security software application for mainframe computers. The rest, as they say, became history. Another leader reports she was recruited into cybersecurity by a fellow musician in a band who saw potential even before she did. We need people with disparate backgrounds in cybersecurity because the people we are pursuing, threat actors, hackers, black hats, also have a wide variety of backgrounds and experiences. The wider variety of people and experience we have defending our networks, the better chance of success. These women believe in continuous learning and really enjoy their jobs. While job enjoyment may be a deeply individual thing, at its core, cybersecurity is about protecting people from harm. And when someone is victimized and you were the one discovered who was accountable, talk about job satisfaction. So we're going to roll the video now, but when it's over and we've heard closing remarks from Fawn Annan, please join us in Compugen's post-show breakout room where I will be speaking with a few special guests in regards to having the right partnerships making all the difference.
Kicking off part 2 of our honorees roundup is Tanya Jenka, better known in the cybersecurity community as She Hacks Purple. She is the founder of We Hack Purple, a tech startup specializing in online and virtual security training for IT professionals. Tanya has been coding since she was a teen, has worked in IT for over 20 years, has won numerous awards, and started her own company several times. Oh, and she's worked for tech giants such as Microsoft, Adobe, and Nokia.
I joined cybersecurity a little bit by accident. I was a software developer forever, and I also played music in bands forever. And I met an ethical hacker who worked at my office, and he was in a band, and so we became friends. And he kept telling me for about a year and a half, "You should be a hacker, Tanya. You'd be so good. You totally should. This would be awesome." And so after a year and a half, I agreed to be his apprentice, and he taught me cool stuff. He helped me get my first job. It was really amazing.
Let's keep it going with Associate Professor at the University of British Columbia School of Information, Victoria Lemieux. Her interests include risk to the availability of trustworthy records, in particular in blockchain record-keeping systems, and how these risks impact transparency, financial stability, public accountability, and human rights.
So I originally trained as an archivist, and I got into the cybersecurity field by accident. I was working for a global investment bank, and they were doing some restructuring of my division. And so I was looking around for where might I move next, and I thought IT security sounded kind of interesting. So I was lucky that the Chief Information Security Officer at the time for the bank was open to the idea.
Last year, more than 40% of Canadians had their online data breached in some way. That data included names, home addresses, email info, passwords, and much more. Lemieux says Canada's education around cybersecurity must be improved.
So our lives increasingly are online, and it's clear that we're not as digitally savvy and we're not as ready as we need to be. So I think that Canada does need to transition to being a digital nation. But we have a lot of work to do in order to get it to the place where we can live our lives successfully and safely online.
Honoree number 13 is an accomplished sales professional and, like many of the other women on this list, is passionate about increasing diversity in leadership and STEM. Arti Gadia is the Canadian enterprise sales leader for the crowdsourced security platform BugCrowd. Her journey into cybersecurity began with an antivirus company nearly 20 years ago.
My background was financial economics, and 20 years ago, if you asked me what I wanted to be, my answer would have been a stockbroker. In 2004, my husband and I, we moved to Canada, and as a new immigrant, I couldn't get a job. I connected with a local recruitment agency who introduced me to an entry-level sales position with an antivirus company. For me, I needed a job, and I knew I needed to take a step back in my career, so I accepted that position. At that time, antivirus was still a new concept. I'm glad I made that decision. I'm still here. However, the first connection I had with cybersecurity was back in 2000 when I was at university, and my final project was saved on that square floppy disk. I remember it got corrupted due to a virus, and at that time I knew that this was going to be a very scary problem.
Olivera Zatazalo is the Chief Security Officer at Huawei Canada, with over 20 years of experience in the telecommunication industry. She is best known for creating value through collaborative leadership style, agile execution, and for her global cybersecurity expertise. Up until joining Huawei Canada, Olivera was responsible for cybersecurity governance, management, and operations within an international communication provider operating in Canada, the US, UK, and France. She was also a member of the Canadian Security Telecommunications Advisory Committee. But today, cybersecurity around 5G and other uncharted waters is where most of her attention is focused.
I'm spending most of my time on 5G cybersecurity risk assessment. So 5G networks are being rolled around the globe, and we need to understand security challenges that these new technologies, new architecture, and new services are bringing. So I'm spending most of my days looking into artificial intelligence, cybersecurity, and privacy framework and risk assessment of the new IoT services.
Today's next honoree is the Chief Information Officer at the Public Service Commission of Canada and the organization's Diversity and Inclusion Champion for Women. For over 17 years, Elizabeth Rodenizer has specialized in cybersecurity and critical infrastructure protection within the public and private sectors. She has developed technical standards for both the North American Electric Reliability Council, NERC, American Bar Association, and the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, NATO. Elizabeth's journey into cybersecurity began with a Bachelor of Computer Science from the Technical University of Nova Scotia, Dalhousie, and an Executive MBA from the University of Ottawa. When asked about what's top of mind around cybersecurity right now, talent acquisition and retention ranked high.
Already in the digital or the IT space, we have not enough supply of talent and people going into this domain versus the demand we have. And when we look at cybersecurity, it is even more so. So absolutely, we need talented people who want to come in and be curious and learn and help us really address the emerging issues that we have when we look at cybersecurity today.
To suggest our next honoree has a tough and potentially stressful job is putting it mildly. Lori Pezzenti leads the Royal Bank of Canada's Global Cybersecurity team as Senior Vice President and Chief Security Officer. In partnership with the organization's executive leadership teams, she directs the development of effective cyber strategies to assess and mitigate risk globally, manage crises and incidents, maintain continuity of operations, and safeguard the organization. Her presence in the cybersecurity industry is matched only by her tenacious appetite to take on new challenges and learn new skills. This approach, together with emerging tech, is crucial, she says, for tackling today's cybersecurity challenges in banking.
I think top of mind is, and the challenge itself is really how do you continue to enable the bank while navigating the threat landscape? It sounds very easy, but it's very, very complex. The sophistication, the number of threats that we face on a daily basis continues to increase. But in order to combat the threats of today and prepare for the threats of tomorrow, we're focused on automation, machine learning, data science, and all of that's in balance with what the business needs to do to execute on their strategy. That's really the only way that you'll be able to keep pace is through automation, and especially given the talent shortage.
But Lori says we can't forget about education either. It's a message the rest of the cybersecurity community has been hollering from mountaintops for years. But it's more important than ever that people listen.
The more educated we are about the tactics of the criminals, the less likely they are for people to fall for them. Cyber can be a bit intimidating to most, and so we need to educate people in the way that they can relate to, not using all of the cyber jargon that we love to speak and use. Collaboration is also a key component, I would say, in terms of the strategy. We can't fix this alone, and so it's critically important to partner together with law enforcement, intelligence agencies, strategic vendors, and other institutions. Sharing information and intelligence is so critical. The criminals all do it, so we need to as well if we're going to win at this game.
Where to even begin with our next honoree? Vanessa Henry is a lawyer at Faskins in the Emerging Tech Division and sits in the Information Security Governance Committee, which oversees cybersecurity within Faskins' offices worldwide. She teaches corporate practices in cybersecurity, crisis management, and compliance to master-level law students at St. Thomas University in Florida and sits on the advisory board. She is the secretary of Open North's board of directors and sits on advisory boards for various startups. And believe it or not, there's more. But we have a schedule to keep. Cybercrime in law is not a dominating profession, Vanessa says.
I would say there's There's a lot of them that are about 10 years of experience, a few about 5 years of experience. The vast majority are younger lawyers. So I would say there are a lot of more and more lawyers in cybersecurity, but not so many with practical, long-time experience.
The millions of new smartphones, smart home devices, and other gizmos with an internet connection coming online in Canada and the rest of the world have their benefits. But they also come at a cost, according to Vanessa. She says we're going to have a tough road ahead, trying to elevate people's concern around cybersecurity and privacy.
And I think we didn't pay enough attention to design. And the truth is that many of the design choices we made could have been better, and we could have anticipated humans' errors and failures. Obviously, it was not a good idea to think that people could remember 80 different passwords. These are designs that we put in place that shape the behavior of people moving forward. And I think we focus too much on the collection, use, and disclosure of this system, and probably not enough on how we can use trust and resilience in the design of the system to make information security and privacy much easier after.
Rosa Caputo quickly got familiar with cybersecurity while overseeing Hydro One Ontario's IBM mainframe computers. Today, she is the founder and CEO of Key Data Associates and a trusted advisor to clients across all industry sectors. She provides strategic advice on matters of governance, regulatory compliance, and systematic risk to CISOs, CIOs, CEOs, government leaders, and board members. A passionate cybersecurity executive, Rosa enjoys mentoring and sharing her experience with other women in the industry. She praises her own cybersecurity hero for bringing more attention to the industry in the mainstream media.
I would say that my hero is Bruce Schneier. He's been very active in this market, in the security space. He's written many books, and he's also elevated the profile of security to the boardroom level. I believe that all his writings and his media appearances and basically telling the truth about security has really brought a lot of attention to the industry over the years.
Cybersecurity innovation might not be the first thing you think of when you hear someone mention the prairies. But thanks to Natalia Stahanova, that's what's starting to happen. Natalia is the Canada Research Chair in Security and Privacy and an associate professor at the University of Saskatchewan. She is the former New Brunswick Innovation Research Chair in Cybersecurity. Her work focuses on software security, e-health security, and specifically, security of wearable devices. Working closely with industry on a variety of R&D projects, she has developed a number of technologies that resulted in 3 patents in the field of computer security and adoption by high-tech companies. But her story, interestingly enough, began with video games.
I had a very geeky neighbor, and he used to bring all kinds of games, and we used to play around. And you know, in the old days, you can just play a game. You would have to sort of tweak your memory a little bit, adjust it, and you have to get into the sort of a hardcore computer to make that game run. So that was sort of a first interest when I thought, that's interesting. I can do something, and I can then use it to play games. It was actually fascinating to know that I can actually do something really fun for myself.
Rounding out this impressive list of honorees is Dana Proctor. Based in the nation's capital, Dana is the Canadian National Lead for IBM's Security Intelligence Practice. In her role, she leverages her seasoned delivery experience to enable businesses with cohesive, transparent, and rapid threat intelligence programs. She has spent half her almost 25-year ICT career leading and growing information security programs from technology stack through to including operating models, through escalating leadership positions with companies such as Nortel and CGI, and now IBM. Dana has grown and built security competencies in the Nordics, the Netherlands, UK, Australia, as well as here at home in Canada. Dana says she had reservations about working in cybersecurity, but like many of our honorees, diving into the rabbit hole was worth it.
I admit to being very reluctant initially because it was a space that I didn't know anything about. It wasn't in my comfort zone, and I had built a fairly strong career already in IT. And however, I soon realized that there were a number of transferable skills that I would bring, and with each new engagement and each new aspect, I became all the more intrigued by being able to continue to solve business problems with technical solutions. And going on almost 15 years now, I have been focused on being in the cybersecurity field.
The rapid pivot to remote work and the ensuing cybersecurity challenge is dominating Dana's attention. IT is also top of mind for hundreds of other IT professionals who are seeking to minimize the risks associated with this added digital sprawl.
Risks being, in a lot of the ways, being unquantifiable. So with that, we then have a heightened malicious activity by ill intent actors. Spam and phishing is up by 14,000%. These heightened attacks are causing already heavily overloaded work with operational teams to be overloaded. Many are being stretched beyond capacity. So remote workforces, heightened digital transformation, heightened malicious activity, all balanced against increased financial pressures. Our response teams are having to do more with less. So it's with that in mind that myself and a lot of my peers are really trying to navigate the ground in front of us in a pragmatic way.
We want to congratulate all of our 20 honorees and the many more who applied for this year's awards. This inspirational list highlights the profound impact such a small group of people can have on not only a technology community, but an entire country. Thank you again and congratulations to our inspirational honorees. Now, back to Fawn Annan for concluding remarks.
Thank you for supporting this amazing initiative that recognizes the tremendous talent we have coast to coast in Canada with women who have chosen careers in cybersecurity. One of the core tenets of this program is to not only recognize these talented individuals, but also to place a spotlight on specific issues women have in the workplace, especially during a pandemic such as COVID-19, where we find ourselves pandering to a digital screen for all our conversations. What we heard from our awards winners from all sectors, government, health, finance, post-secondary institutions, manufacturers of technology, are that we all must lead by example. We must all help to combat not only the cyber threats we face today, but the impacts brought on from working at home, which can heighten or diffuse a woman's career standing. We all have mixed feelings, men and women, about the amount of personal information being collected each second we interface digitally. We are acutely aware of how cybercriminals are modeling and targeting people, making us all more susceptible to spear phishing attacks and ransomware. For many women, having heard from an illustrious group of professional cybersecurity experts, there are mixed feelings about losing control of their image under the constant glare of the green camera. Why? Because they remain the primary caregivers in many situations, or they live in a vulnerable relationship that is being captured too many times through on-demand meetings. This is a time for strong leadership that must come from an empathetic mindset. Sometimes having to use technology, such as cameras on, is not the best way to govern a remote workforce. This new environment requires adaptation and more education, not just more tech training. It requires technical support, better onboarding, more emphasis on client and technical service teams, and great advocates to protect members' reputations and images because of sensitive realities. From the human side to the security side, women remain one of the greatest assets we have in building a rich and innovative workforce for Canada and beyond. So in closing, I first want to thank ITWC's partner with SCARA and the fabulous Bonnie Butlin. I want to thank the judges that took their time to choose the 20 amazing women in cybersecurity in this inaugural year. You did a top-notch job. Thank you again. We plan on doing this again next year, so we may be calling on you again. And I believe for 2021, it will be March of the day that we have International Women's Day. I believe that's March the 8th. Or we also have plans with a new Pan-Canadian cybersecurity conference called MapleSec in the works for October of 2020. So it may be sooner than you think. So the details will follow. I also want to thank the colleagues of the winners and their senior leaders who submitted the nominations for these high-achieving honorees and role models. And special thanks to the sponsors, Dell Technologies, Intel, VMware, Compugen, and our quiz sponsor, Rapid7. Now, some of you know, but others don't, that a virtual conference is actually quite an undertaking, and it requires a team effort to pull it all together. And I just wanted to give you a quick peek at the dynamic ITWC team that helped propel this endeavor with Bonnie from the initial idea through the nomination process, the recording of the videos, and the execution of the event today. I thank them and I thank all of you. So before you head back to work, why don't you join us in the Compugen Post breakout room, where we have 3 senior female cybersecurity leaders at hand to talk about their cybersecurity journeys and answer questions you might have about challenges in your career. Again, thank you for being a part of the inaugural Women of Cybersecurity Awards event. See you next time.